Welcome to the Lock Shop with Nielson and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Lock Shop. Dusty with you. Hustle be joining momentarily. We've got Elimination night in the National Hockey League. 4 teams facing a 3-1 deficit in action tonight. We'll get to some of your messages. We'll recap last night on the hard court, on the ice as well. It is CFL draft day as well. The Edmonton Elks Global Draft already cruised along, and draft will get rolling tonight, 6 o'clock Edmonton time as well. You can text us anytime, 780-218-9999, 780-218-9999. If you're listening on iHeart or on TuneIn, please tell your friends about what we're building over here at Edmonton Sports Talk. And if you're watching on YouTube, we'd appreciate the thumbs up here on the Lock Shop today. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. All right, let's bring in Huss. Big one for Winnipeg tonight. Holy smokes, Huss. What's the vibe like? First of all, is it snowing there? It is snowing here like crazy right now.
Come on.
Yeah, like a pretty big snowfall right now. It's wild. Flakes.
It's gorgeous outside.
Yeah.
It's hopefully this isn't a bad omen. It's golf weather. It's I don't know, 13 degrees and sunny right now. Yeah, it's gonna be nice tonight. We were at 23 last week.
What? I went out to my truck after the show today. There's this much snow on it right now.
God, that is wild.
And it's still coming down big time. So yeah,
well, you know what? You guys can handle a little bit more hockey weather. It seems like your team is ready to keep people talking about hockey. We're going to find out a lot about the Jets tonight. Like this, I just had, and for people that, if you're an Avs fan or just a Jets fan that wants some great insight on this, the reason why I was just a couple minutes late jumping in here, I just finished recording an interview for Winnipeg Sports Talk today with Matt Calvert. And Calvert played with the Avs for a number of years. He's a Manitoba guy, lives out in Brandon. And he is honestly, I mean, I wish we could get him on regularly, but he's like coaching 7 teams and kids and running around. I mean, you would know what that's about. But he said, I will definitely make a point of squeezing in a time to jump on with you guys. And his breakdown of what the Avs are doing and just how well they're doing it is something it's definitely worth watching. We'll have that coming up on WST today. But, I kind of tried to get into him as to, when you're just getting absolutely pumped, how do you stop the bleeding? Because, I mean, the 2 games in Winnipeg were relatively back and forth. But, I mean, these 2 games in Colorado were so lopsided, and the Jets had absolutely no answers that, at a certain point, it kind of becomes a level of pride and fight in guys to drag themselves back into it and put up a fight worthy of your last stand before you're knocked out. And I hate to say this, and our buddy Ted Wyman from the Winnipeg Sun wrote about this as if we all needed to be reminded of it today. The Jets' history in elimination games is, I'm not even sure if embarrassing is enough.
What's the number, Huss?
I think they're 2-14.
Oh boy.
Facing after a loss. But I mean, last year they won game 1, they lost 4 in a row. And if you recall, we all remember the bonus sound bites after last year's loss, no pushback. But this dates back even further. The loss to the Canadiens in game 4 in a sweep. The one that hurts the most people around here, 2019, an absolute no-show in St. Louis in game 6. So there's a lot of guys that I think have to look themselves in the mirror and realize that win, lose, there's all sorts. I mean, the Avalanche are a great team. You could play an awesome game, and it's not like you're guaranteed to win. But it's about putting it all out there. Cliche as it sounds, one game. Go out there and play one game. And we'll see. And listen, yesterday was that was a downer show. a downer atmosphere around Winnipeg. I mean, you know how it is.
Yep.
But I'll tell you what, the sun's out today. We got the whites on, ready to get down to the rink tonight, and we'll see what happens. I expect the Jets to be much better. And by the way, the lines have been completely shaken up for tonight.
Really?
And
I saw Perfetti's in, right?
It is almost as if members of Twitter have hacked Rick Bowness's account. And I will give myself credit. I mean, listen, there's been a lot of discourse about putting Velarde with Scheifele and Ehlers. That was the best line we've seen all year long when Kyle Connor was out. When Connor back, they always went back to Kyle Connor. And I'd said on the show, well, listen, you might not get it now, but you're going to get it at some point because it'll either get so bad they move to it, or this team's going to be in the playoffs. And when they're down to their last out, that's going to be the desperation move. People will argue that it should have happened earlier. I would probably be in that group, but we are going to see it tonight. So Ehlers, Scheifele, Velarde, Perfetti is in, playing with Kyle Connor and Sean Monahan.
Oh, nice spot.
And Toffoli is moved down to the fourth line. He'll be along with David Gustafsson and Alex Iafallo. Logan Stanley's out. Colin Miller is in, which I think will really help. I mean, the one thing the Avs, like the Jets have always had at least one left-handed D playing on the right side. And man, there's been so many times where they just identify that corner and then the guys are trying to break things out with their back to the play on their backhand. And it just has not worked. So, listen, I don't know. We'll see what happens tonight. I think for myself, I mean, no expectations of necessarily winning the game, but you want to see a professional effort going out, putting your best foot forward. And tell you what, the closer we get to game time and the further we get removed from game 4, I'm starting to come around with some hope and optimism for tonight's game.
Well, we'll set up the whole slate here in a little bit. We'll get to a recap of last night, but 4 teams facing elimination tonight. How's I do just quickly on this one more time? How many pairs of white pants do you have?
1.
Just the one. Just the one for this occasion only, right? You don't ever
And
wear them anywhere else.
I'd never had them any time before in my life, but when I went to MC my pal's wedding in Mexico.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God. I was stressing so hard about I had to wear a suit every day for 15 years. Now I don't, even though we've got a great suit sponsor. Shout out F Apparel, 190 Smith Street downtown. If you need to get hooked up, I have gone back from these suit days to hoodie, and the biggest perk of sports radio is that
I can't imagine you wearing a suit for 15 straight years, bro. Like that's wild to me.
I know. It was a different person. I've really gotten to really been able to embrace the true me. But anyway,
you faked it for a decade and a half.
I went to the mall, and I'm gonna say I'm pretty sure for the first time since the pandemic.
No way.
I'm not as they say, you know what? As long as we got these Coolbet hoodies, I'm good.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm at a loss. I needed a handler. Basically, okay, this is where we could go. This is what you could get. I just had no idea. And I walked by the Lululemon store. And I knew Lululemon was awesome because my ex used to work there, and she was she loved the stuff. It was obviously really high end, and she bought me a few things. So I'm like, okay, I would have never normally even thought about this. But anyway, so I'm walking down this outlet mall, and they've got this Lulu store, which I didn't even know was there, and they had this big rack of pants. And I'm like, I'm just gonna go and just quickly check. And sure enough, they had a couple ones relatively. I went and tried them on, and I mean, listen, this is not Spawn. I have no association with Lululemon, but for crying out loud, these are the most comfortable pants I've ever tried on in my life. And I'm sitting there looking at them, and I ended up getting 2. One was like a darker pair. One was a white pair. I ended up wearing the white pair for the wedding, along with a pair of new white Vans that I did get from our sponsor, Royal Sports. But I realized that whether I wear these things for the wedding or not, this is going to be my uniform for the whiteout. So these things, now that I've worn them a few times and I love them so much, I might be white pants guy out at Breezy Bend this summer on the golf course.
Yes, you could do that for sure.
But I can tell you that I'm not sure I've ever had a piece of clothing that I have just literally loved to wear more than the stuff that I've got from Lulu. Not cheap, but again, this was even better. Like, it's one of these outlet malls or whatever. So there was a lot of stuff. They probably don't have a lot of bigger dudes rolling into Lulu. That's my theory. So I'm like, this is great. On sale, all these things. So anyways, that's the story of the white pants. Wow. And they will be worn tonight. And we'll see whether we have a chance to wear them again for a potential game 7. That seems a little far-fetched right now, but we'll take it.
Just so everyone knows, I did not know that story was coming when I asked about white pants. I was just like, I wonder if he only has one pair. I did not. It's not like we talked earlier and Hustle's like, I got a great white pants story. Like it just worked out. It just worked out. Hey, by the way,
magic of the lock shop.
Yeah. Speaking of working out, I believe it was Northside Sandwich who said he was betting on the empty net goal last night at plus 180. And my goodness, how about that?
There was like 5 empty net goals.
Oh,
now that you think about it,
that Florida Tampa game was nuts because we were on the under 6.5, and just a heartbreaker for that game to finish 6-1. Like that was nuts.
Listen, that game, I understand why John Cooper was a little bent afterwards. I mean, 2 goals that get reviewed, both go the wrong way. And I'll be honest, the second one that went in that they said was no goal and then Cooper challenged. Like when Kevin Weeks, card-carrying member of the goalie union, is saying, this is 50-50, I kind of thought that should have counted. I thought that they maybe got the raw end of it last night. And it was not a 6-1 game. It wasn't a
it was a close game. Yeah.
It wasn't a 4-2. I mean, that was an absolute dogfight that just got blown away, and the score reflects nothing of last night. But anyways, Northside had the empty netter in the first game multiple times. And then the Dallas Stars, man, I was watching this game and I'm like, man, I hope the Jets are watching this game right now, because Dallas, like, you want to talk about being in a bad situation, lose 2 in a row at home against the defending Stanley Cup champs. Like, how's that not in your head?
Is it like, that's got to be the worst possible situation, right? Like
in Vegas, you're all pissed off. They got all these extra players. This is bullshit. But I mean, there's no fight there's no quit in the Dallas Stars. And they were relentless. And I guarantee you, Rick Bowness was smiling when he saw the goals that they scored. I mean, they scored 2 goals basically from the goal line. One off the goalie's head and another one off the shoulder of one of the players. Like, they're not always pretty in the playoffs. And they did what they had to do. And Vegas was the better team in the first period. I mean, Vegas had plenty more chances. They were up 1-0.
I was a little worried about the Dallas pick with the way Vegas started that game last night, buddy.
Dallas flipped that in the second period. They flipped it. And listen, they got that lead. They didn't lay off it. Ottinger made a few big saves when they needed it. And like, we all thought that probably was going to be a very long series. It didn't look that way after games 1 and 2, but it just goes to show how things can change in the playoffs. I'm hoping for that tonight in one series in particular, maybe a few of them.
Yeah, that series looks like it's going the distance. We got the four series that could end tonight. We'll set that up quickly. Last night in the association, another classic between the Nuggets and the Los Angeles Lakers. And Jamal Murray, once again, I mean, he was on fire from the very beginning of that game. But once again, a dagger with 3 seconds left in that ball game. Gets by Reeves. Anthony Davis sags a little bit too much. Should have gone up on him. I know he would have been worried about going to Jokic. But I think Jamal Murray's the guy who's taking that shot in that situation for the Denver Nuggets. And it ended up being like a 12-footer by the time it was all said and done. And he knocks it home, man. Huss, Jamal Murray is just a play. Like, there's a lot of guys. Well, there's not a lot of guys who find another gear in the playoffs. but Jamal Murray's done it now for a couple of years in a row, and it's pretty damn impressive.
I heard him describe last night on the post game with Ernie and Shaq and those guys. They said, Murray, does he have the regular season accolades? No.
Never been on an all-NBA team or anything.
No, he's not there. And he missed some time. He's been hurt and stuff like that before. But they say when he gets to the playoffs, he turns into player 99 from NBA Live 95, which is, I believe, the basketball version of Jeremy Roenick in NHL 94. Basically unstoppable. And you just think about just in this series, Dusty, I still think the best play that he made, or the most memorable, was juking AD out and hitting that rainbow.
The game two buzzer beater.
Game 2.
Yeah.
But I mean, last night there was 3 seconds left. It was to break the tie, pretty darn close. But what's amazing, and I know it was Iwanek. I was talking to him while you were away last week.
Okay.
He's a big Laker guy as well. And
Yeah,
he's like, okay, well, I was all rah-rah about the Nuggets and, my NBA futures bet or whatever. And he's like, well, if they go down, at least we know Darvin Ham will be gone. And he had a list of grievances about Darvin Ham. But there was a couple things. Reeves begging to get back in the game last night when the guy that had been lights out was like he just forgot about him on the bench and finally got himself
only
back
played
in the
34
game.
minutes, yeah.
And then using the challenge at the end of that game when they did on that play on Jokic, he was trying to get a no foul and a jump ball.
Yeah.
Well, you have to have a timeout to use that challenge. They didn't get it, so they lost the timeout. So when Murray hit the basket with 3,
they couldn't
left,
time out and advance it up the court. It was a killer, man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Plus,
so
in that game, Darvin Ham, and we talk about his usage of timeouts has been a conversation since he took over. And last night, you ended up using that last one on the challenge late, and then didn't have the one late. But also at the same time, and I don't know how he can't sense this being in the building, but the Lakers, who'd been dominated in third quarters for most of the series by the Nuggets, actually were having a pretty good third quarter. And then about 3/4 of the way through the third quarter, the Nuggets started rolling, and you could sense it. And Darvin Ham didn't call a timeout until the run was like 10-2 or 12-2. And I was just like, how do you not pump the brakes on this partway through? It just made no sense. And I'm glad you brought up the Reeves thing, because Reeves was having a really good game last night. And he just kept rolling back out Spencer Dinwiddie and Gabe Vincent. I'm like, not in this. This is a do-or-die game, man. What the hell are you doing? So it says right now, it looks like it's unlikely that he will be back, but we'll see how that sorts itself out.
Speaking of being back, I'm not sure if you caught your boy LeBron's answer to the question, did you think that this might be your last game as a Laker? And he paused for a long time and then said, I'm not going to answer that now. I appreciate you.
Player option.
And then moved on.
Yeah.
So
he'll be back.
Let's get the Coolbet odds up right now. Where will LeBron play game 1 of the 2024-25 season?
I don't think he'll be back if Darvin Ham's there. That's probably why he was reserving judgment. But we'll see how this one plays out. KD's under contract, I think. I think he's under contract still. Yeah, they've just been talking about LeBron's player option, and then we'll see what else they do with the roster. D'Lo has a player option as well, but even prior to these last couple of games, after he had 0 points in game 3 or whatever it was, talking that he's probably going to just leave and not exercise his player option to stay there. So we'll see.
The guys are watching. Here's another NBA-themed Coolbet option we can put out. After the Suns embarrassed and swept in the first round, who will request a trade first? Will it be Kevin Durant or will it be Devin Booker?
Well, KD was already bitching how he didn't like how he was used in the offense. So
he's minus 250.
Yeah, he would be the front runner on that front. It was interesting because that series, the Lakers led for like 76% of it. And they showed that one graphic last night. Like the other teams that had led for that had already swept or were up 3-1. The Denver Nuggets in crunch time, man, they find a way to get it done. And now a great series against Minnesota too. And OKC, a really young team, looked outstanding in their first round series. And the Nuggets are going to have to go through Minnesota and then OKC. So if they do go back-to-back, like you've bet on and I've said will probably happen, they're going to be tested along the way here, Huss. And I'll be interested to see if these other teams can give them more trouble than what the Lakers were able to do through 5 games. Because they only lost, 4 playoff games last year at all. They went 16-4 last year in the playoffs. So, yeah.
Well, and by the way, you'll be proud of me kind of turning into NBA guy.
Good.
I believe this might have been the first day that you'd left when the playoffs were starting. But my 3-game series parlay is looking very, very good right now. OKC Thunder -2.5 at -105.
Boom.
That one's in. New York Knicks to win -125. They're up 3-1. And the Pacers -115 over the Bucks. That is a +557 banger that has one in. And as long as Indiana or the Knicks don't blow 3-1 leads, we will be cashing that. So
ladies and gentlemen,
on that,
it's Mr. Association right here.
NBA guy.
Yeah.
That's right. And of course, I do have a big future on the Nuggets to win.
Which is not a bad thing to have in your back pocket.
I just roll with Jamal Murray and the Joker. Tell you what, though, these next couple of series are going to be really, really good. I mean, the Timberwolves, and I know no one sees them. Like, I have not yet seen a Timberwolves game this year.
They got size, man.
Ever.
They got size.
Well, and this Anthony, I keep wanting to call him Anthony Bennett.
Oh, man.
Dude, he's far from Anthony Bennett.
He's a lot better than that. Yeah, Anthony Edwards is, as we described him yesterday, I think on our show, a dog. He's got that dog in him. He was the guy who was in the movie with Adam Sandler. He was in
dog on a trampoline.
Yeah,
is what he is.
He's an athletic freak.
Jump like that. He's getting Jordan comparisons just for his ridiculous athleticism. Actually, speaking of which, I wonder if there are. So here we go. This series is already up right now. Denver Nuggets, Minnesota Timberwolves. The Nuggets are still a pretty big favorite, -208 and +167. The Knicks right now. I mean, I could easily hedge this parlay. The Sixers are +700, and the Bucks are +820. So
yeah,
I mean, I'm not going to.
No, I think you're good. I think you're doing good. Yeah,
I would like to see what the numbers are. Cavs and Magic, that's still going on. Boston Heat, that one's pretty much over. And the Clippers and Mavs. Is that 2-2?
It's 2-2. They're 0-2 when Kawhi plays, 2-0 when he doesn't, because he's been banged up. Even when he's been in. And now I think he's listed as out indefinitely. I could be wrong. But I got to side with Luka and Kyrie down the stretch in that one, I think.
That's who I want to see. And then they'll play OKC, I believe.
They get OKC. Minnesota gets Denver. Yeah, that second round's actually shaping up to be. If you get SGA versus Luka in the second round, and then this Denver-Minnesota series, man, second round of the West playoffs is going to be absolutely outstanding. Looney Len texts in 780-218-9999. If you're listening on iHeart or on TuneIn or at EdmontonSportsTalk.com, please tell your friends about what we got going at EST, and you can download the free app and listen along. Looney Len says, guys, when Jimmy Johnson went to the Dolphins, I tried really hard to be a Dolphins fan, but it didn't last long. It was an affair. I didn't like the colors. Go Cowboys. So I fandom along the way. You flip and go and follow guys along. And yeah, this text comes in as well and says, Lululemon, ABC pants are the best. ABC equals anti-ball crushing. So is that why they're so comfortable, Huss?
I mean, that's another one of the benefits. If we were listing them all down, yeah, these ones are just in like a nice light, looser golf pant, basically.
Are you wearing them right now? Are you wearing them right now, the other ones?
Oh, no, I'm wearing sweats right
okay.
now. Come on.
Come on,
get dressed up for our shows now that we're going on. I do always wear pants, though. I think that maybe only one time ever have I just gone with boxers for WST because I could, but that's not something that I do. I'm looking in chat here.
Yeah.
I'm just looking in chat here, a few comments, and we should get to these hockey games tonight.
Yeah, and CFL draft.
And Northside Sandwich, no offense to Huss and the Jets, but I don't think the Jets have it tonight. Abs and Reg. I can't blame anybody for thinking that. If I had no skin in the game and had watched these two games, there would be no other option, and that may very well be. But Rod Z says, start Hellebuck, it's over. Got to give Boss a start. Laurent Brossois has been great this year. This is so not on Connor Hellebuck, guys. This is, put it this way, the Jets' expected goals against, both at 5-on-5 and 4-on-5, is way worse than the San Jose Sharks was all season long, and they were the worst team in the NHL.
It's that bad, right? It's just horrible.
Listen, it has been tidal wave after tidal wave of Avalanche. And the wild thing is, the Jets' top lines outscored the McKinnon line. It's Nichushkin, it's Lettinen, Wood, Colton, like all the perceived depth advantage that Winnipeg had has been, I mean, that entire thing has been turned off it. But that game, I am a little surprised that the Avs aren't a bigger favorite considering what we saw in Denver. Colorado minus 119, Jets in their last stand plus 101, and the total in this one is 6.5. I may as well just go quickly through the odds.
That Colorado regulation line's plus 135. If you want to, if people want to roll with that, like that's a good number.
Leafs with their backs against the wall, plus 126 to get it back to Toronto. Boston Bruins minus 148. The Islanders plus 195 to see another day. The Hurricanes minus 238. And the Nashville Predators plus 105. And the Vancouver Canucks minus 124. I will take solace out of this based on the betting lines, and we always follow the money to know what's really happening. The Jets are the most likely team to force a game 6 tonight, according to the Coolbet lines tonight.
Actually, that's a good point. You're right.
Someone's going to get a win tonight. Now, I got a tough time sitting here. Although, you know what? Now that they've changed these lines up,
it's a different look, right?
It's a different look. And I think it gives me more, like I was trying to think of what the hell would I do for a WST parlay? Like we kind of felt like a Jets win should just be plus 500. Like that was the way it felt after games 3 and 4. But now with Ehlers, with Scheifele and Velarde, maybe we'll look at that line to do something and throw that out together. Anyways, keep your eyes out on Twitter a little later on for that, or in our Coolbet line segment in Winnipeg Sports Talk towards the second end. Let's start with you today. What do you like when you look at this? I mean, put it this way. This is the question we talked about before. Who can win and not get bounced tonight? Leafs, Islanders, Jets, Preds.
Preds is my favorite play of the game, plus 105, considering how good they've been so far in this series. I mean, let one slip away, somehow lost a game when they only allowed 12 shots. Totally. I think Nashville has the gear to get it done tonight on the road against Vancouver. So, like, the quick answer for me would be Nashville plus 105. Carolina, I think, finishes the job tonight at home. I don't see them allowing this thing to go any longer against the Islanders. I don't necessarily love the minus 238 from a value perspective. Regulation, I might worry a little about it. Like, even if it goes to overtime, I think they get it done. Like in Patrick Waugh's Islanders hang around a little bit. Maybe if you like them in regulation, it's minus 139. The Leafs,
I don't mind that.
Yeah, in regulation for Carolina. Yeah, I think so at home tonight. If we're putting together a parlay, I think Carolina in reg at minus 139 probably has to be on it. And then the Leafs are interesting because I love when their backs are against the wall, but when backs are against the wall, there's certain guys who step up. And I just don't know if that Leafs core is a group that I would trust with their backs against the wall at the best of times, let alone with Nylander just getting back, with Matthews, I guess, being a doctor's decision. I don't know when the last time was it was a doctor's decision and not a player just being like, I feel well enough to play. I don't feel well enough to play. So that's interesting. And then you got the whole Mitch Marner thing. So I can't get behind the Leafs core to stay alive tonight. I just don't think that group is in a spot right now where they're going to push through. So I like the Bruins there as well. I mean, if I was ranking chances of staying alive, I'd say Nashville number 1, Winnipeg number 2. And then I'm very pro Hurricane, so it'd be tough to put the Islanders ahead. But I could even see Patrick Waugh's Islanders squeaking one out, maybe even. That's how little faith I have in the Toronto Maple Leafs right now. So I think the Bruins get it done tonight, Huss. But if we like Carolina and Reg, what else are you looking at?
Well, I mean, as I say, the Jets game is off the parlay. There's no way I don't want to bet against them, but I certainly don't want to put them on.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of with you on. Listen, I picked Toronto at the beginning of the series like a moron, and I've been regretting that every time I've watched them play for the most part. Here's Luke Fox. I believe he's with Sportsnet. You can follow him on Twitter at Luke Fox Jukebox. Just to reset what you just said. No determination yet on Auston Matthews' status for Game 5. It will be the doctor's call. And then Keefe declined to answer if there's something beyond just an illness hindering him moving forward. So even if Matthews is in there, and I bet he'll gut it out and try to play. I mean, if a doctor might rule you out the morning of the game, how much can we expect from this guy? I'm a big Nylander fan, and I think considering he missed time earlier on, I think they'll get good stuff from him. But I mean, Tavares, whatever, and Mitch, like, it's and Boston smells blood. And once I saw Marchand score in Game 3 after the Leafs had just tied it up and skate by their bench and said, "This is over in 5."
Yeah.
Kind of believe him.
I think
I kind of believe him.
I see Richard in the nasty chat saying, I just hope the Bruins kick the Leafs' ass. And then I see Jake go, no need for that, Richard. Poor Jake.
Yeah.
Jake from Coolbet still in there hanging on to hope. But even Jake's got to know,
we're
man.
in the same. Hey, listen, as bad as that Leaf game was, and I know they get the most attention, and people are saying it was the most embarrassing loss of Leaf. Like I saw Hayes going off on it. No, it wasn't. The Jets in Game 3 and 4, and again on the road against the best home team in the NHL. Maybe you take a little bit off for that, but trust me, the Leafs were in those games a lot more. But again, none of that matters tonight. But I do think, I mean, listen, it's very hard with everything swirling around Toronto. It's very hard to think that they will go into Boston and win that game. So if we want to add it to the parlay, like I'm with you. Nashville plus 105 money line, Boston minus 148 money line, Hurricanes in regulation.
Ooh, I like that.
Minus 139. It's right there in our sweet spot, plus 491.
Let's do it. Jake, I don't know if you can stomach putting this one in for us because it involves the Leafs being eliminated. But Nashville plus 105 on the money line, the Bruins money line minus 148, and Carolina in reg to finish off the Islanders at minus 139. What about?
Hey, before
go ahead.
I was just going to say, before we get to CFL draft and kind of move on from hockey, we should quickly go through these exclusives. Like yesterday we worked this out, or maybe it was actually on Winnipeg Sports.
Yeah, because we didn't hit. I hit the exclusives after you left yesterday.
We hit the exclusives on Winnipeg Sports Talk yesterday, and even though unfortunately, like I was really high on overtime last night, and remember we were talking about with Rod. Rod had said in chat, well, you know what? How about this? You put a unit on overtime in the first game and a unit in overtime in the second game, and either way, you're going to be up if it comes through. Coolbet had a promo, had one of the exclusives last night. Either game to go to overtime at plus 150. And I'm like, well, let's just see how this would work. So I put in, if you put $10 on the Florida game to go to OT, you would have won $43.50. If you put $10 on the Dallas game, you would have won $42.50. But if you put $20, like put both of them on the exclusive for either team to win, you win $50. So there really is. I mean, the boost that they give us on the Lock Shop promos is always great, but there's some nice ones too in the Coolbet exclusives. Tonight, the Old Faithful points from the point. Morgan Riley, Cale Makar, and Quinn Hughes, all to record a point or more, plus 320. Hughes is the guy that worries me. He just looks like he's, dead out there, like really, really hurting on every shift. Same old maple laughs. I don't know whether Pat or Jake. How about this?
Oh,
this
man.
is it. Same. You know what? There's a few haters in the chat who might love this one. Same old maple laughs. Mitch Marner and John Tavares, both under half a point, and the Bruins to win, plus 450.
That's if you're anti-Leafs tonight, that's a good play.
Helping hands. Brad Marchand, Mikko Rantanen, JT Miller, all to record an assist, plus 450. Ticket punching. Bruins, Hurricanes, Avalanche, Canucks, all to win. So that's the four favorites tonight. That's boosted up to plus 745. Stars and Snipes, couple of U.S. goal scorers, Kyle Connor and Brock Besser, both to score. And then go Canada. Leafs, Jets, and Canucks all to win. Plus 825. So again, it is important, cool bettors, just check out those daily exclusives, because I know many of you, especially in the Lock Shop, are thinking about putting a few things together and working it around. We did the examples in every case. If you're essentially thinking of betting the same thing that's in the exclusives, make sure you do the exclusive and take care of the boost that the Jake and Pat are kind enough to serve up for us.
This text to the inbox from Mike, the Michigan fan. There's no difference if Matthews is in the lineup or not. Could have been a healthy scratch in games 1, 3, and 4, and you wouldn't have known the difference. The playoff flu in Toronto is in full effect. Mike, the Michigan fan. Brad Marchand puts them out of their misery tonight. That's the feeling I have for this game tonight. Yeah.
You know what? I actually am a huge Matthews fan. I think he is, like, honestly, one of the best players of this generation. I think he's sort of been let down by some of the others in that core, but it's so clear that he's not even remotely close to 100%. And it's hard to imagine the Leafs beating the Bruins without massive performances from him, as well as a couple of those other guys who have been sort of AWOL right now. So it's hard to have faith that they'll be able to go into enemy territory and get it done. But I think you could say the same thing for pretty much all of these teams, minus Nashville, that's been so close and has just found ways to lose. I'm with you. I'm sort of, I would think, I'll probably jump on that singly as well. Plus money, plus 105 for Nashville to get the win tonight.
CFL draft goes tonight as well. The import draft, or the global draft, I should say, is already gone. And the Edmonton Elks drafted a linebacker. I do love this. I saw it. The Elks drafted a linebacker with the first overall pick in the global draft. I saw some people say, does that mean they're not going linebacker with Joel DeBlanco later on today?
First thought I had.
I know. And it's different. It's a different, global versus the Canadian. However, the line has moved slightly. And I don't know if this is just like we were talking about this morning. DeBlanco this morning when we started the show was minus 250. Mardner was, I thought, plus 450. I could be wrong. Mardner's now 5-1. The DeBlanco has moved down to minus 238. We had Marshall Ferguson on the Nielsen show today talking about this because he doesn't have DeBlanco going first overall. A lot of mocks you look at have DeBlanco going first overall. Likely the reason it's minus 238. Well, he mentioned Nick Mardner, who's the receiver out of Auburn in the SEC. And Chris Jones is a big SEC football guy. Canadian receiver who can come in, 6'6", great athlete. Curly Gittens Jr. is going to be a little bit banged up, I think, at the beginning of the year. So there could be an opportunity for this guy to play right away. So Mardner's at 5-1. And I wonder if that's worth a little bit of a sprinkle. And Marsh was at. Marsh is at the combine. He covers the draft great for CFL.ca and stuff. And he said a lot of people are talking to him at the combine. We're like, well, DeBlanco's the clear number one. And this morning when we started our show, before we had Marshall on, and I'm looking at these numbers, I'm going, well, this would also make sense because we know Chris Jones just absolutely loves Americans. And this is essentially an American who found the old Canadian loophole, got his citizenship, right? So I think I'd still lean towards DeBlanco, but Ferguson made a pretty good case today for one of those receivers, whether it be Mardner or Mittal, who's 8-1 right now.
Well, I'm a big TSN Marsh guy. I was looking for a reason to bet the CFL draft, and I wasn't going to take the minus 238 favorite. So I have just put a little sprinkle on Mardner for the, hey, $20 plays 120. So I'll be frantically, and you know what? It'll give me something to do to keep myself together before an 8:45 or 8:50 puck drop tonight.
Oh, you almost be able to watch the entire bloody draft by then. Holy smokes!
Yeah,
like
for sure.
Well, it's 8:45 for you guys. 7:45 drafts at 6 our time. So yeah, hour and 45 minutes of it.
If you want to play at both sides, by the way, if you like Marsh, but you think that there's that Mittal, that the other guy, you can just pick position of first overall pick.
Yeah, the receiver.
Receiver at plus 335. I'm just going to roll with Marsh's guy, who's at 5-1 right now. But I just love the fact that we've got some sort of an option for the CFL draft.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to be able to wager on it too. And you never know, like the CFL draft. We were talking about this morning too with Marsh and before Marsh, and like prepping for the CFL draft. And Marsh confirmed what Eric and I were talking about. Has just got to be the biggest wild card in all of professional sports drafts. Like you've got guys that would be the first overall pick if they didn't get a mini camp invite, or they didn't, for example, this year, one of those UBC offensive linemen ended up getting drafted by the Detroit Lions. The other one signed a free agent contract right after. You still kind of want those guys kicking around. You'll see them probably go late in these drafts just in case, Huss. But I don't know how you properly put a board together for the CFL draft. That's got to be tough to do for these guys.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know how hard it is to even be a fan of youth sports? I mean, it's not on TV. I mean, you got to basically be on subscription services and making a point of going in. Most of the games are happening at the same time. Unless you have good intel into a CFL scouting room, I would imagine it's almost impossible. I mean, guys like Dwayne Ford and Marshall Ferguson do such an amazing job, but it's a 12-month job. I mean, you can't just spend 2 weeks prepping for the draft and get ready for it. I mean, you got to be on it during the season. And those Saturday afternoons where you're not working CFL, you're going to games, you're watching it overall. And then as the season goes on, you're focusing in on more of the players that you think have a better chance of sort of being in. So full credit to those guys that do it. I'm just going to take Marsh's advice. Any excuse to fade a big favorite, I will take. So we're going to go with this Nick Mardner to the Elks. And again, you tell me Auburn, SEC, 6'6", like that sounds like something that Chris
Jones will be tempted. You know he'll be tempted for sure. He'll also like the American linebacker who he can play as a Canadian. He'll like that too. So our two names right at the top of the draft here that would fit the Chris Jones way. Huss, quickly before I let you go, we'll set up Winnipeg Sports Talk in a second. Steven Stamkos. I think last night was the last game in Tampa. I feel like they get something done there. Do they not?
They did last time.
Yeah.
Let's not forget, now it's a very different situation right now. And I'd have to pay close attention to what their cap is for next year. But I think he really wants to retire a Lightning. I think they want to keep him. Like maybe the AAV goes down a little bit and they give him an extra year on the deal. But I really do think that there's something that they can put together and, make happen. I would, well, that's another Coolbet option. Where will Steven Stamkos play his first game next year? I would suggest Tampa will be the favorite. But there'll be a couple of other teams that have some cap space that'll definitely try and knock on his door. Maybe he'll be the Leaf savior next year.
That could be the case.
Little homecoming.
The line on Nick Martiner just moved. I think we moved it on the lock shop. I think a few incoming bets just were placed on Martiner to go first overall. So
got it up 5-1.
Yeah, there we go. It's been moved courtesy the lock shop. That was kind of funny to watch happen.
And DeBlanco.
Yeah.
DeBlanco down to minus 222 now.
Just like that. Yeah, the line has moved. What's coming up on Winnipeg Sports Talk today, Huss?
Well, this interview with Matt Calvert, which should be a lot of fun. We'll have Mike McIntyre down from the rink. We'll hear from Rick Bowness and some of the players. And then to keep our minds maybe off the game, the tension around the city facing elimination, and to get ready for tomorrow's AEW wrestling card here in Winnipeg.
Oh, boy.
Winnipeg's own Chris Jericho on the program this afternoon as well. So the learning tree will be in the house. And I think Jericho is going to be at the game tonight, firing up the fans, getting things going. Perfect timing for him to be able to see the game back here in Winnipeg. So, Jericho, Calvert, Mike McIntyre, Hustler, Remus, Coolbet line. It's a star-studded affair coming up in about 10 minutes on WST.
All right, buddy. Well, you have a good show, man. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll see whether I'm wearing all black instead of all white tomorrow, depending on what happens this evening. Anyways, have a good one.
There you go. There you go. You know what? I hope the Jets win tonight, just so that Huss can continue to live that good life in Winnipeg. Stretch that series out a little bit more. Jake, speaking of people living a delusional life, Jake Bolin Moss, old Coolbet Jake, Leafs fan, in the nasty chat right now. Future Leaf, Steven Stamkos. How about no? Can you imagine if Stamkos was that stupid that he decided to go spend the rest of his career, which has been a phenomenal Hall of Fame career, and you can find a way to get a deal done in Tampa and live in Tampa Bay for the rest of your bloody life and be a legend, one-team legend. Or you somehow end up in Toronto in some sort of delusion and you get to be criticized for the rest of your life living in Toronto. That would be an all-time bad decision. Even if it was possible. Stamkos gets one text from John Tavares and says, don't even think about it. I'll help you out here, buddy. It's not worth it. I don't know what pajamas you wore as a child, but it's not worth it. Stay where you are. I'm old enough to remember when Stamkos was going to Tampa. This makes me feel really old. But I remember when Stamkos was going to Tampa. Remember the campaign they had? Seen Stamkos? Still don't love it. Still always thought it didn't really necessarily make sense. But it was a good buzz. It was a good buzz down in Tampa. Smitty the Welder. Huss has won enough with his Chiefs. You know what? Smitty, I will say this. Now, Smitty, you're a Niners fan, aren't you? So I know there's a little bit of a grudge. It's like me with the Niners. Enough with the Niners already. I'm a Lions fan. It was ridiculous. They should have won that game. But, yeah, I'm not going to feel too sad with Huss when he's a Kansas City Chiefs fan. It's a good point. Jake, you be careful with those messages here in Edmonton. I mean, McDavid is also not stupid. Not even. He's a lifetime Oiler. We don't even need to discuss that one. We already went over the NHL exclusives, which I do usually hit, but here's the NBA action tonight. 3 games. Magic plus 170 on the road. Money line. 5-point dog in Cleveland against the Cavs. The New York Knicks, I think I saw Stephen A. Smith today making a big case for LeBron James to end up as a New York Knick with Bronny by his side and Brunson and others. Yeah, I wouldn't mind going to see LeBron play. I'd like see him play at MSG as a Knick. That would be kind of cool. Highly unlikely, though. I think he stays in LA. Here would be my prediction. Not that anybody cares about an Edmonton Sports Talk guy's Los Angeles Lakers prediction, but we got a couple of guys around here who are willing to give them to you. Ham is out. I wouldn't even be surprised if Frank Vogel gets fired by the Suns. Do they run it back? Do they run it back with a championship coach? I wouldn't even be surprised if that's the case. He wouldn't have to worry and deal with Russell Westbrook this time. So that would be a positive. D'Lo moves on. They try to land another big three. Reeves has to stay. I love Reeves. You got to get another big that can play. Jackson Hayes, no thanks. Waste of time. Christian Wood was hurt. When he was healthy, they didn't go back to him. They need another. You know what they need? They need 2020 Dwight Howard. A big body that can go in there and crash and bang on Jokic and defend and let AD free him up to do some damage at the offensive end. So, I mean, I guess these aren't even predictions. I'm just kind of laying out what they have to do. I'd fire Pelinka as well. I'd clean the whole thing out. That'd be the way to go. I don't think they'll go that far on it, but that would be the prediction there. Pacers and Bucks tonight. Pacers minus 182 to finish off that series against the injury-riddled Milwaukee Bucks. You can find all those at Coolbet. We've got two guys coming up. Gager has some family stuff going on today, so Tommy Gazzola is actually going to hop on for about the first 40 minutes of two guys with myself and Cass today. We'll get to your bigger and hotter headlines for Big Mama's and Papa's Pizzeria. That's coming up, and obviously we'll start to get you ready for Game 5 between the Oilers and Kings on two guys and a goalie. If you're watching The Lock Shop right now, hammer thumbs up on YouTube before you leave. Turn on autoplay. It'll take you right on over to two guys. If you're listening on TuneIn, iHeart, or EdmontonSportsTalk.com, quick dose of Whale and the Wolf, and then boom, we will slide right into two guys and a goalie. Thank you very much for joining us here on The Lock Shop today. Best of luck tonight, unless you're the Maple Leafs, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.